Hey everybody, I'm Steve at the Carmichael Workshop, and Inventables, the maker of the X-Carve CNC machine, sent me a brand new X-Carve kit with all the improvements and upgrades they've made since the older 2015 model. So if you have an older model of the X-Carve and you've been thinking about making some upgrades, or you just want to hang out with me and see what's new on the new X-Carve kit, stick around. Before I get started, I want to thank Inventables for providing me with the new X-Carve machine so that I can compare it with the older model. All they've asked is that I give my honest opinion and feedback on the new machine, the assembly process, and the upgrades that they've made since 2015. They also suggested that I donate my older X-Carve to a local school or makerspace. So I've decided to donate my old X-Carve to my local woodworking club, the Gwinnett Woodworkers Association, and it's going to be really cool that I'll get to pass on my knowledge as well as the machine to a larger group of people, so more people can get educated on CNC manufacturing. I know there are a lot of you out there who have the original version of the X-Carve, and if you followed the Inventables website and user forum, you've probably seen a lot of people making modifications to it to soup it up a bit. I kept mine in the original configuration for a long time, and I even made an electric guitar with the stock spindle, but I did eventually upgrade it to a DeWalt 611. I also added a vacuum hose for some dust collection, which kind of worked. But for this video, I reset it back to its original configuration. So what I'm going to do is give you an overview of the assembly of the new X-Carve so you can see kind of what's new in the assembly process. I'm going to show you the upgrades that are available, and I'm also going to do a quick project. So let's get started. Alright, I got the test project carved on the first try, so that's pretty awesome. And the machine worked fine. I did not use the dust collection system because I wanted to show you how it kind of throws dust everywhere. Even though I only made one pass on this project and it didn't create much dust, you can kind of see the spread of sawdust that ended up on the machine. So on the project I'm about to do now, I am going to use the dust collection system so we can see how it works. Now this project I'm going to make is going to be kind of a picture frame with some words around the border with a beach theme, and I'm going to use it to mount a picture that's kind of bent across the front and wedged in between two grooves. It's kind of hard to explain, but you'll see it when I'm done with it. When you start a CNC project, one of the first things you have to do is figure out how you're going to clamp down your material. Now, Inventables offers the 60-piece clamping set that works in conjunction with the threaded inserts on the waste board, and it allows you to clamp material up to 1 3/4 inches thick. The clamp set comes with two sizes of these supports depending on how tall your material is. You get the taller one here, and you also get a riser where you can raise it up even taller if you have thicker material. In this case, I'm just using 3/4 inch lumber, so I'm going to use the small one. And then you have these little arm pieces here that come in different sizes that just latch on to the ridges of the support there. And then you choose which length screw you need to fasten it down. And in this case, I'm just going to use the one with the red handle. And that will tighten my material down to the wasteboard. This unit has a more heavy-duty drag chain, and these tabs open up, which allows you to lay the cables in it and then close it, as opposed to the older model, which had a smaller drag chain and you had to actually feed the cables through it, which became difficult the more cables you had running through it. Also, they've added this extrusion that goes from side to side to support the weight of the drag chain. You can either move the machine manually to set the tip of the bit to the top surface of your work area, or you can use this Z probe that Inventables offers. It connects right here, and you have a clamp that clamps onto the collet, and then you have this disc. And in the easel software, you can tell it to use this Z probe to set the height of the bit. The software first tells me to touch the tip of the bit with the disc, and then set it on the work surface. Now I just click a start button so it can register. Now it knows where the tip of the bit is in relation to the work surface, and I can remove the Z probe. The X-Carve has XYZ homing switches that allow you to move the router bit to the origin or home location. Since my workpiece is kind of out here in the middle, I'm going to use the manual machine controls to move the router over to the lower left corner of my workpiece. The dust chute comes with these two arms that mount on either side of the router, and they're attached back here at the back so that the arms and the dust chute itself are stationary while the router can move up and down. The dust chute itself is clear, so you can see inside and see what's going on. It's got magnets on the side, so you just slide it in and it stays put. And you want to set the height so it's just touching the top of the work surface. And also sometimes the dust chute might not work out, so it's easily removable in case the clamps that you're using might interfere with it, or you're working with an irregular workpiece. So I've told the easel software that the dust chute is attached. I'm going to turn on the spindle and click that button that says the spindle is on. I'm going to turn on my shop vac, and then I'm going to hit that carve button and do some carving. Well, this project carved fine too, and it turned out just like I designed it. I don't see any errors anywhere in it. I got a little worried when the dust chute bristles started hitting this clamp over here, but it totally cleared it and it just carved as if it wasn't even there. So that worked out well, and I'm really pleased with how there is no dust on the wasteboard. That is incredible. It's so much better. Alright, well here's the finished picture frame, and it looks pretty cool. It turned out just like I pictured it. And I'm going to make this project available over on my Inventables project page in case any of you want to try it. I just left the words plain around the sides, so they're more subtle and they don't detract from the picture, but you could certainly paint inside the letters if you wanted to. You could also make it bigger or smaller. As far as the clear acrylic goes, you'll want to use a really thin piece that's easy to bend, and you might have to adjust the depth of these grooves so it wedges in there pretty nicely. But overall, I'm pretty happy with this. So it's over on my Inventables project page. I'll put a link in the video description below in case you want to try it. Now let me show you what I like and don't like about the new upgraded X-Carve. I really like the dust collection that they've added. It does a good job at sucking up the sawdust, and the dust chute is easily adjustable, and you can easily remove it if you don't want to use it on a project. The primary upgrade I made to my old machine was to add the DeWalt 611 router. It's just got a lot more power. It's also got a speed control on it, which helps with cutting different materials. Inventables does sell a special bracket here just for the DeWalt 611, and they have that available on their website if you want to upgrade. But I'm glad to see that the stock unit now comes with the DeWalt 611. This XController is a really nice improvement. Not only does it make the machine look nice and clean, but I like that it has an emergency stop button and onboard controls here so you can pause the machine if you need to without having to run over to the computer. I like that it has plugs for all the cables so you no longer have to do any soldering or crimping to it. And also it's got more power, which I think will be beneficial since they've added the heavier DeWalt router and also the dust collection hose on there. I think that power will come in handy. The assembly of this X-Carve seemed to be easier and go a lot faster this time, but I'm sure a part of that is because I've already assembled one of these before. But I did notice Inventables made some improvements to the core components and also the instructions on their website. I noticed 3 major improvements to the core components of the machine that made the assembly easier. First, the holes in the ends of these maker slides come pre-tapped with threads. I specifically remember spending a night in the shop on the last machine using a tap to tap holes in all of these maker slides. And it's good to see that that work has been eliminated. They have also provided plastic clips for the belts to keep the belts locked at the ends to keep the teeth from slipping. And previously you had to do some hack like wrap it with electrical tape or something, which just didn't feel right on a $1,500 machine. So it's good to see they're providing these belt clips. And the third thing is the maker slide across the machine is now a solid square extrusion. It used to be 2 of these thinner maker slides that ran in parallel across the machine, which would cause some flex in the machine here and it would affect your carve. So this square maker slide makes it a whole lot more sturdy. I think the weak spot of the X-Carve is this belt system that's used to drive the router around. I'd like to see that done with some other method. I see a lot of comments from a lot of users on the forum that have trouble with the belt slipping or coming loose at the ends. On the old machine, these pulleys were attached with set screws that would come loose, but Inventables did solve that problem by permanently affixing the pulleys to the motor shaft, so that's a step in the right direction. I think for new people, tensioning the belts and getting them not to slip is probably the hardest part and takes the most time to tune up the machine. I just try to tension the belts so they play a note like a string on a bass guitar, and that note is the same on all the other belts to keep a consistent tension. One thing I do before every carve is push the gantry all the way back, all the way forward, all the way back a few times to make sure I don't feel any resistance or the belt's teeth slipping. I also move the router back and forth all the way to make sure it runs smoothly as well. And I think that also helps eliminate any racking that may make the left side and right side out of alignment. I had 2 minor issues with the ZAxis on my older X-Carve that I was hoping would be resolved with this unit, but they're not. The first one is as the DeWalt router gets raised up, the body comes very close to hitting this plate, and it's almost rubbing against it, and I'm afraid it's going to scratch up the DeWalt router. But I think it's rare that the router is going to go that high for the stuff I carve, so I don't think it's really a bad issue. The other is, the only way to raise and lower the DeWalt router without using the controls on the computer is to turn this up here and lower it that way. And this pulley's not the most comfortable thing to turn. So it'd be nice to see some kind of knob included or crank included here with the kit that could help you raise and lower the router manually. Now Bob over at I Like to Make Stuff created this little knob here that can be 3D printed, and I think it might be on Thingiverse for download. If I can find it, I'll put a link in the video description for that. But it's just a little knob. You can make one of these yourself. It just snaps on to that nut on top, and that makes it easier to turn and raise and lower the router. But I would like to see some sort of knob included with the kit. I noticed the new X-Carve comes with these eccentric spacers as opposed to the eccentric nuts that were used on the older machine. The older machine had problems with those eccentric nuts working their way loose, which would loosen the wheel against this maker slide here. So I think the new method of using this spacer on a bolt with a lock nut on the other side will keep these more secure. The X-Carve pretty much comes with everything you need to put it together. The toolkit includes some metric wrenches and Allen keys that are used throughout the whole assembly. The only extra tools you might need are some scissors, pliers, and a large flathead screwdriver. The hardware also comes in the kit. That's all the screws, washers, nuts, etc. that you need. Those small parts are divided up into small plastic baggies. So if you get a kit, you can expect to see a lot of these, but don't let it intimidate you. Just be aware that you pretty much get the exact amount of each part that you need. So be careful not to drop something and lose it. After I assembled the X-Carve, I had about 4 or 5 of these that still had some extra parts in them. I know I didn't skip a step or leave something off, so I think those were just some extra parts that made their way into the bags. And now I want to thank Inventables for making the text on these labels much larger this time, because that makes it a lot easier for us older guys who have a hard time seeing. I noticed that Inventables has made a lot of improvements in their easel web-based software that's used to run the X-Carve. You can see it at easel.com. You can actually create an account and log in for free and try it out and see what it's like to design a CNC project that can be sent over to the machine. Now they've added a lot of new features, and the cool thing they added were a lot of new apps that help you do projects. Like there's an app for making boxes, there's an app for making inlays, I think there's an app for making fidget spinners, and just a lot of apps for different common projects you might encounter. So that's really neat to see all the advancements they've made in just the past couple of years. Now one thing I'm still waiting on is the ability to do 3D contours and carve like the back of a guitar neck. From what I've read in the user forums, it looks like they might be working on that, so I'm looking forward to that in the future. So overall, I'm really pleased with this new version of the X-Carve and the upgrades and improvements they've made, aside from the few issues I mentioned. I've enjoyed having the older X-Carve in the shop. It gives me an extra capability of carving people's names into projects and making signs and things I couldn't do before. Thanks again to Inventables for sending me the new and improved X-Carve. I really appreciate it, and I'll get a lot of good use out of it. Also, I'm looking forward to donating my old X-Carve to our local woodworking club, where even more people can learn about using a CNC machine. I'd like to thank all of you out there for watching and sticking with me on this video. If you have any questions about the X-Carve or the upgrades, the easel software, or anything else, just leave them in the comments below and I'll reply as soon as I can. I'll include links to everything I talked about in this video in the video description below, so make sure you check those out. There will be an affiliate link to the Inventables website, so that if you click that and go over there to see what they have to offer, they'll know that I sent you. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Visit my website at thecarmichaelworkshop.com, where you can subscribe to my newsletter and get all my updates. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.